Welcome, dear listener, to Mythology for Sleep. Tonight, as the world settles, we'll journey back to an epic, foundational myth, the Titanomachy. Imagine a time when the universe itself was being shaped by colossal battles. We'll follow young Zeus and his siblings as they rise against Cronus, their powerful father, in a struggle that defined the very cosmos. This is a story of courage, family, and the dawn of a new era. But just before we begin, if our stories help you drift off, please tap the like and subscribe buttons. In my channel, you can find Norse, Greek, and other mythology tales. So comment and tell me which myth you'd like to hear next. Your support helps us craft and shape more calm stories for fellow night owls. And now let your shoulders sink softly into the mattress and your mind drift into today's tale. The cosmos spun in a timeless, inky void. Stars glittered distantly like scattered diamonds. Here, in the vastness, Cronus reigned supreme. His rule was absolute, his power immense. Yet, a shadow clung to his heart. Fear, a cold, persistent dread. Cronus remembered his own ascent to power. He had overthrown his father, Uranus. A violent, bloody struggle it had been. Now, the wheel of fate turned once more. A prophecy foretold his downfall. One of his own children would usurp him, just as he had usurped his father. This prophecy haunted his waking hours. It poisoned his dreams. He paced his celestial halls. His thoughts were dark, foreboding. He would not suffer his father's fate. No, he would defy destiny itself. Rhea, his wife, moved through their home. Her heart was heavy, her spirit burdened with sorrow. She loved her husband, but she feared his growing paranoia. She watched him helpless. His fear consumed them both. Soon the first child was born. Hestia, bright and pure, a tiny, perfect being. Rhea cradled her daughter. Her heart swelled with love, but Cronus approached. His eyes were cold, unyielding. He reached for the infant. Rhea's breath hitched. A silent plea formed on her lips, but Cronus was resolute. He snatched Hestia away. Then he swallowed her whole, just like that. A terrible, gaping maw. Hestia was gone. Rhea collapsed, weeping. Her cries echoed through the emptiness. Her grief was a raw, open wound. How could a father do this? Her tears fell like rain. But Cronus remained unmoved. Time passed, slow and agonizing. Another child came. Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Rhea held her close. She tried to hide her, but Cronus found them. His hunger for power was insatiable. Demeter, too, was swallowed. Rhea's spirit was crushed. Hope dwindled to a flicker. But still, the cycle continued. Hera, queen of the gods. Then Hades, grim lord of the underworld, each infant born innocent, each consumed by their father. Poseidon, master of the seas, followed. He too vanished into Cronus's stomach. 5 children lost, 5 precious lives. Rhea's womb felt empty. Her arms ached for them. Her heart was a desolate landscape. She felt utterly alone. Her husband, once her love, was now her tormentor. But a spark remained, a tiny ember of defiance. She would not let this continue. Not again. Not with her next child. This one she would save. She swore it. To herself, to the silent stars. Her belly swelled once more. The time for birth approached. Rhea made her secret preparations. She consulted ancient oracles. She sought the wisdom of the earth. Gaia, her mother, offered counsel. A plan began to form. A desperate, daring scheme. When her pangs began, she fled. Stealthily, silently, she moved. She left their celestial palace. She journeyed far across the cosmos. Her destination, the island of Crete, a hidden, sacred place. There, among ancient caves, she gave birth. Zeus, her youngest son, was born. He was strong and vibrant. A tiny cry filled the cave. Rhea held him close. Her heart swelled with fierce, protective love. This one would live. This one would be safe. She wrapped the infant in soft, swaddling clothes, kissed his tiny forehead. Then, with a heavy heart, she prepared the deception. She found a large, smooth stone. It was roughly the size of a baby. She wrapped it carefully, swaddling it just like Zeus. Her hands trembled, her breath hitched. This was her only chance. She looked at her sleeping son. His tiny chest rose and fell. She prayed to the ancient powers, prayed for strength, prayed for success. With the stone bundle in her arms, she returned. She faced Cronus. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. But she feigned exhaustion. She presented the wrapped stone. "Your son," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse. Cronus, ever vigilant, snatched the bundle. He did not hesitate. He did not inspect it closely. His fear consumed him. He opened his mouth wide. The stone, wrapped in cloth, disappeared, swallowed whole. Rhea watched him. A silent scream tore through her, but outwardly she remained calm. Cronus was satisfied. He believed the prophecy averted. He believed his fate sealed. He believed his line secure. But Rhea knew better. Her heart ached for the swallowed stone, but it sang for her living son. Zeus was safe, hidden away. On Crete, he would grow. He would gain strength. And one day, he would return to face his father, to reclaim his destiny. The cosmos held its breath. A new dawn was coming. And so, baby Zeus was whisked away. His mother, Rhea, carried him in secret. She traveled far from Mount Othrys. Her heart ached with a mother's love. Rhea sought refuge on the island of Crete. Its rugged mountains offered a hidden sanctuary. She found a deep, cool cave there. This cave would be Zeus's first home. 2 gentle nymphs awaited them. Their names were Adrastea and Ide. They had soft hands and kind eyes. Rhea entrusted her precious son to their care. These nymphs became his loving guardians. They cradled him tenderly. They sang him lullabies made of wind and leaves. Zeus was safe in their embrace, but a baby needs sustenance to grow. A special creature provided this. Her name was Amalthea, a mountain goat. She had soft, white fur and gentle horns. Amalthea nursed the infant god. Her rich milk sustained him. Zeus drank deeply, growing stronger each day. He thrived under her watchful eye. One day, an accident occurred. Young Zeus, perhaps playfully, tugged too hard. He accidentally broke off one of Amalthea's horns. But this was no ordinary horn. From this horn flowed an endless bounty. It overflowed with fruits and flowers. It offered honey and sweet nectar. This was the horn of plenty, the cornucopia. The nymphs used its gifts wisely. They fed Zeus the finest treats. They decorated his cave with its abundance. Life there was peaceful and serene. Yet a baby's cry can travel far. Kronos might hear even a faint sound. So, special protectors were assigned. These were the Kurites, fierce warrior dancers. The Kurites stood guard outside the cave. They wore bronze armor. They carried swords and shields. Their duty was to mask Zeus's cries. Whenever Zeus let out a wail, a hungry cry, a frustrated cry, the Kurites sprang into action. They began their ritualistic dance. Their movements were strong and rhythmic. They clashed their shields together loudly. The metallic clang echoed through the mountains. It drowned out the sound of the baby god. Kronos would hear nothing. Zeus grew at an astonishing pace. He wasn't like mortal children. His strength increased by the hour. His mind sharpened with each passing day. He learned to crawl quickly. Then he walked with surprising grace. Soon, he was running through the cave. He explored every nook and cranny. The nymphs taught him about his world. They spoke of the stars and the sea. They told him tales of ancient times. They filled his young mind with wonder. He noticed his own unique power. He could feel the earth beneath his feet. He sensed the energy within the air. Something set him apart. Rhea visited him often. Her visits were always secret. She arrived under the cover of night. She held her son close and whispered words of love. She watched him grow with pride. But a shadow of sorrow lingered. She knew the truth must be revealed. He deserved to know his heritage. One moonless night, Rhea sat with Zeus. He was no longer a baby. He was a strong, curious boy. His eyes sparkled with intelligence. "My son," she began, her voice soft, "there is something you must know." Zeus listened intently, his gaze unwavering. He sensed the importance of her words. She told him of his father, Kronos. She spoke of his terrible deeds. She recounted the fate of his siblings. Zeus listened in stunned silence. "You are a god, my son," Rhea explained. "A powerful god destined for greatness." She spoke of the prophecy, of Kronos' fear. She told him of his unique survival. Zeus's young mind reeled. He was not merely a boy. He was a god, hidden from his father. A plan began to form within him. He understood his purpose now. He would free his brothers and sisters. He would challenge his tyrannical father. He would restore balance to the world. His upbringing on Crete had prepared him. He was strong, clever, and determined. The nymphs, Amalthea and the Curetes, had nurtured him well. They had protected the future of the cosmos. Zeus felt a surge of power. It flowed through his veins. He was ready for the next step. His destiny awaited him. The cold wind still whispered secrets. Zeus, a young man now, felt its chill. He remembered the cave's rough comfort. He thought of the mountains, his home. But a new purpose stirred within him. He knew his destiny waited. He journeyed back to Cronus's domain. The palace loomed, it seemed to sigh. He moved like a shadow unseen. His heart beat a slow, steady rhythm. He felt no fear, only resolve. This was a king's return. He sought out Medes, wise Medes. Her name meant counsel or skill. She was a Titaness, ancient and knowing. Her eyes held the wisdom of ages. Zeus approached her with reverence. He spoke of his long-held plan. Medes listened, her gaze unwavering. She understood his deep desire. She knew the pain of his siblings. She saw the injustice of Cronus. Her mind, sharp and clear, began to work. She would help this determined young god. She offered him a special potion. It shimmered, faintly glowing. "This will free them," she whispered softly. "Your siblings will be made whole." Zeus took the vial, his fingers steady. He felt the weight of its promise. He returned to the palace's heart. Cronus sat upon his great throne. He seemed unaware, lost in thought. His power felt immense, oppressive. Zeus moved closer, a cup in his hand. He poured the shimmering liquid. He offered it to his father. "A refreshing drink, my lord," he said. His voice was calm, unremarkable. Cronus took the cup without question. He drank deeply, without suspicion. The potion began its slow work. A strange feeling stirred within Cronus. He felt a churning, a disquiet. His brow furrowed in confusion. A deep rumble echoed within him. Then, a sharp, sudden pang. His body convulsed violently. He retched, a sound like thunder. The first to emerge was Hestia. She landed softly, a young woman grown. Her eyes, wide and bewildered, blinked. She looked at Cronus, then at Zeus. A silent understanding passed between them. Then came Demeter, strong and vibrant. She gasped, drawing in fresh air. Her long hair cascaded around her. She recognized her brother instantly. Relief washed over her face. She reached out a trembling hand. Hera followed, beautiful and regal. She landed with a queen's grace. Her eyes blazed with fierce intelligence. She saw Cronus, then Zeus. A deep anger rose within her, but hope sparked in her gaze. Next, Hades appeared, dark and intense. He rose from the depths, solemn. His presence felt weighty, profound. He surveyed the scene with calm eyes. He nodded slowly, a silent acknowledgement. His power was palpable. Finally, Poseidon burst forth. He seemed to carry the ocean's roar. Water glistened on his skin. His eyes held the sea's vastness. He stood tall, a mighty figure. He looked at Zeus, his brother. The 5 siblings stood together. They were whole, fully formed gods. They remembered their long imprisonment. They felt the injustice of Cronus. Their eyes turned to Zeus, their liberator. He had fulfilled his promise. A bond formed instantly between them. It was forged in darkness and freedom. They shared a common enemy. They shared a powerful lineage. Their allegiance shifted, clear and strong. It was given to Zeus, their leader. Cronus lay gasping, weakened. He stared at his released children. His eyes held a dazed confusion. He could not comprehend this turn. His power seemed to drain from him. The tide had truly turned. Zeus stood tall among his siblings. He felt their strength, their presence. He knew their combined power. The air crackled with newfound energy. The old order was crumbling. A new era was about to begin. The palace, once oppressive, now thrummed. It vibrated with divine power. The siblings stood as one. Their eyes met, a silent vow. They were ready for what came next. They were ready for war. Hestia moved closer to Zeus. Her gentle hand touched his arm. Demeter offered a soft smile. Hera's gaze was resolute. Hades stood as a silent pillar. Poseidon's presence was immense. They were a family, reunited. They were gods, powerful and free. Their journey had just begun. The great war awaited them. It would be a battle for dominance. It would be the Titanomachy. The young gods found their footing. They gathered on Mount Othrys, a temporary refuge. Its slopes offered shelter. Its peaks touched the clouds. They spoke of their next move. Zeus felt a stirring within him. A deep, ancient whisper guided his thoughts. It was the voice of Gaia. She spoke of old injustices. She spoke of forgotten powers. Uranus, and then Cronus, had imprisoned many. They lay deep within the earth. They waited for release. These beings held ancient knowledge. They possessed formidable skills. Gaia urged Zeus onward. He must descend into Tartarus. He must free the elder Cyclopes. He must free the Hecatoncheires. These beings would aid the Olympians. They would turn the tide of war. Zeus listened intently. He felt the weight of her words. His heart swelled with purpose. He prepared for the journey. His siblings watched him go. A quiet solemnity filled the air. He descended into the gloom. The path grew darker. The air grew colder. He felt the earth's ancient heart. Tartarus stretched before him. It was a realm of shadows. It was a place of despair. Yet, a faint glow pierced the darkness. It was the imprisoned Cyclopes. He found them there, Bronze, Steropes, and Arges. Their single eyes gleamed faintly. They were mighty, even in chains. Their forms were immense. Their strength was palpable. Zeus approached them cautiously. He spoke of his lineage. He spoke of his mission. He spoke of their freedom. He extended his hand. The chains fell away. A rumbling sound echoed. It was the sound of liberation. The Cyclopes stretched. Their limbs cracked with age. Their eyes blinked in the dim light. They looked at Zeus with gratitude. Their voices were deep, like thunder. They knew of his struggle. They knew of his bravery. They offered their skills. They offered their craftsmanship. They were master smiths. Their hands shaped raw power. They would forge weapons. They would forge tools for the gods. Zeus led them forth. They ascended from Tartarus. The journey was long. It was arduous, but hope now burned brighter. They reached the surface. The light of day greeted them. The air felt sweet and clean. The Cyclopes began their work. They found a cavern. It pulsed with heat. It glowed with molten rock. Bronze, the thunderer, took up his hammer. Steropes, the lightner, prepared his bellows. Arges, the bright one, focused his eye. Their movements were practiced. They were precise. They worked in unison. Sparks flew like stars. The clang of metal echoed. It was a symphony of creation. The air grew thick with magic. It hummed with nascent power. First, they worked for Zeus. They channeled the sky's fury. They captured the storm's raw energy. They hammered it into shape. It became a weapon of immense power. It became the lightning bolt. It crackled with divine energy. Zeus took it in his hand. He felt its immense force. It pulsed with his own will. He could summon storms. He could strike down mountains. This was a weapon of kings. This was the mark of his sovereignty. Next, they fashioned a gift for Poseidon. The Cyclopes plunged a trident. They plunged it into the deepest ocean. They drew forth its essence. They shaped the waves' power. They forged the sea's dominion. The trident gleamed blue. It shimmered with ocean mist. Poseidon grasped it firmly. He felt the pull of the tides. He felt the ocean's vastness. He could command the waters. He could stir mighty storms. Finally, they crafted for Hades. He was the ruler of the underworld. The Cyclopes delved into shadow. They drew forth the night's deepest secrets. They wove darkness and invisibility. They forged a helm of concealment. The helm of darkness shimmered. It absorbed all light. It rendered its wearer unseen. Hades donned the helm. He vanished from sight. He became one with the shadows. He could move undetected. He could command the dead. The Cyclopes stood back. Their work was complete. They had given powerful gifts. They had armed the Olympians. They had repaid their freedom. Their eyes held quiet pride. Their hearts held deep gratitude. The young gods now stood ready. They possessed formidable weapons. They were no longer merely defiant. They were now truly empowered. The tide of the war would turn. The Titanomachy would begin in earnest. The world held its breath. The air in Tartarus hung heavy. It was thick with sorrow. Zeus's powerful voice echoed. He shattered the ancient silence. His words promised freedom. They brought a spark of hope. From the deepest shadows, 3 figures emerged. They were truly immense. Their forms were like mountains. Briareus, Cottus, and Gyges stood before him. Each had 50 heads. Each boasted 100 mighty arms. Their eyes, though ancient, held a flicker of curiosity. Zeus extended a hand. He spoke of the surface world. He described the sun's warmth. He spoke of the sky's vastness. He promised them a new purpose. He offered them a chance for vengeance. Their long imprisonment had festered. It had fueled their silent rage. The giants listened intently. They felt the sincerity in Zeus's offer. They remembered Cronus's betrayal. His cruelty had bound them. Their hearts swelled with a forgotten feeling. It was the feeling of hope. Briareus, the eldest, spoke first. His voice rumbled like thunder. "We pledge our loyalty," he declared. "To you, son of Rhea." Cottus and Gyges nodded. Their massive heads moved in unison. "Our strength is yours," Gyges added. "Our 100 arms will serve." Zeus smiled. He felt a surge of confidence. These allies were formidable. Their power was immeasurable. He led them from the abyss. They ascended towards the light. The journey was long. It was filled with anticipation. Upon reaching the surface, the Hecatonchires marveled. They saw the verdant lands. They breathed the fresh air. The world was vibrant. It was so different from their dark prison. Their eyes adjusted slowly. They took in the vast blue sky. The Olympians greeted them warmly. Athena offered a respectful nod. Poseidon clapped Briareus on the back. Even Hera, usually reserved, showed kindness. The giants felt a sense of belonging. They were no longer alone. Zeus gathered his forces. He outlined his strategy. "We will test their defenses," he stated. "We will probe their weaknesses." The Hecatonchires stood ready. Their myriad arms twitched with anticipation. They yearned for battle. The first skirmishes were swift. They were less about conquest. They were more about observation. The Olympians launched swift attacks. They targeted isolated Titan outposts. These were minor engagements. They served a larger purpose. The Hecatonchires proved invaluable. Briareus hurled massive boulders. Cottus conjured fierce winds. Gyges unleashed torrents of water. Their combined might was overwhelming. The Titans were caught off guard. They had underestimated this new threat. Cronus, from his throne on Mount Othrys, observed these attacks. His brow furrowed deeply. He recognized the immense power. He knew the 100-handed giants. His ancient fear resurfaced. He had imprisoned them for a reason. He summoned his most trusted allies. Atlas, the unwavering, stood first. His shoulders were broad. They seemed to hold the very sky. Ipetus, fierce and unyielding, arrived next. His eyes burned with defiance. Hyperion, the Lord of Light, approached. His presence radiated power. Coeus, the Titan of intellect, followed. His mind was sharp. Creus, the ram-headed Titan, completed the assembly. His strength was legendary. "The Olympians grow bolder," Cronus declared. His voice was cold. They have freed the Hecatoncheires. A murmur went through the Titans. This news was unsettling. It changed the balance of power. Atlas stepped forward. "Let them come," he growled. "We are Titans." Ipetus nodded in agreement. "Their new allies are strong," he conceded. "But we are stronger." The skirmishes continued. They were like distant thunder. They heralded a coming storm. The Olympians gained confidence. They refined their tactics. The Titans, though formidable, felt a flicker of unease. One day, a detachment of Olympians attacked a supply route. It was guarded by minor Titans. Athena led the charge. Her spear flashed like lightning. Ares roared his war cry. His sword bit deep. The Hecatoncheires joined the fray. Gyges unleashed a massive wave. It swept away the Titan guards. Cottus hurled boulders. They crushed the supply wagons. Briareus used his many arms. He captured the remaining Titans. The Titans fought back fiercely. They were proud beings. They were not easily defeated. Yet, the Olympians were relentless. Their new allies were unstoppable. The skirmishes were small, but they sent a clear message. The war was brewing. It was almost upon them. The ground trembled. The air crackled. The stage was set. The great conflict loomed. It would test all their strengths. It would determine the fate of the cosmos. The air thickened with a quiet hum. It vibrated with immense power. This power settled upon Mount Othrys. The Titans gathered there, their forms colossal. Kronos surveyed his domain. His eyes, ancient and cold, gleamed. He felt an old, familiar strength surge within him. Mount Othrys became their fortress. Its peaks pierced the clouds. Its slopes echoed with their deep voices. Rhea stood near Kronos. Her face was etched with worry. She tried to whisper a plea. Kronos merely waved her away. His attention was fixed on the horizon. He saw shadows stretching across the land. These were the shadows of a coming war. The earth itself seemed to brace for impact. Far across the churning land, another peak rose. This was Mount Olympus. Its summit glowed with divine light. Zeus stood tall upon its highest point. His presence commanded the very air. He surveyed his own assembled forces. The Olympians stood ready, their hearts resolute. Poseidon gripped his trident. Its prongs hummed with raw ocean power. Hades stood silently, his helm dark. His aura was a chill wind. Hestia and Demeter watched with solemn faces. Hera, regal and fierce, stood by Zeus. Her eyes burned with a righteous fire. The cosmic stage was set. The two mighty armies were poised, one on Othrys, one on Olympus. The very cosmos held its breath. A profound stillness descended. It was the calm before the storm. Then, a single, deafening roar tore through the quiet. It was Kronos' war cry. It echoed across the valleys. It vibrated through the very stones. Zeus answered with a blinding flash. A lightning bolt leaped from his hand. It streaked across the sky. It ignited the heavens. This was the first volley. The war had truly begun. The initial clashes were monumental. They shook the foundations of the world. Titans, ancient and massive, charged. Their footsteps made the ground tremble. Olympians met them with equal fury. Their new powers blazed brightly. The sky became a canvas of light and shadow. Poseidon thrust his trident forward. A wall of water rose. It crashed against the charging Titans. The force was immense. Mountains of water engulfed them, but the Titans were resilient. They pushed through the torrent. Their sheer bulk was daunting. Zeus hurled bolts of lightning. Each one was a searing spear. They struck the Titan ranks. The air crackled with energy. Explosions rocked the earth. The sound was like 1,000 thunderclaps. Smoke billowed, obscuring the battlefield. The earth itself groaned. It cried out under the strain. The sky darkened, bruised, and battered. It reflected the chaos below. Rocks shattered into dust. Trees were uprooted and flung. Rivers changed their courses. This was a war of gods. Ocean waves rose to impossible heights. They crashed against the shores. The very air tasted of ozone. It smelled of raw power. The ground split open in fissures. Molten rock surged upwards. The world was being reshaped. It was a crucible of conflict. The Titans fought with brute strength. They wielded massive clubs. They tore up chunks of the earth. They hurled them at Olympus. But the Olympians were agile. They dodged the massive projectiles. They countered with precision. Their new weapons were devastating. One Titan, a son of Uranus, charged. His form was like a mountain. Zeus met him head-on. A blinding flash erupted. The Titan roared in pain. He stumbled backward. His immense form crashed to the ground. The earth shuddered. Poseidon waded into the fray. He moved like a storm. His trident flared with blue light. He struck repeatedly. Each blow was a shockwave. It resonated through the water. It rattled the very bones of the earth. Kronos watched from Othries. His face was grim. He saw the power of Zeus. He witnessed Poseidon's might. A flicker of doubt crossed his features, but he quickly banished it. He roared a command. His Titans surged forward again. The battle raged without pause. Days blurred into nights. The sun and moon seemed to flee. They hid behind the clouds of war. The stars themselves dimmed. They were overshadowed by divine combat. The cosmos was in turmoil. The air was thick with the clash of forces. It was a symphony of destruction. The groans of the earth were constant. They were a mournful song. The ground beneath their feet was scarred. It bore the marks of divine warfare. Mount Othries stood defiant. Its ancient stone resisted. Mount Olympus shone bright. Its divine light pierced the gloom. The two strongholds faced each other. They were symbols of opposing wills. The war was in full swing. The thunder of Zeus's lightning had faded. A strange calm settled. Yet beneath it, new battles stirred. Titans, still reeling, regrouped slowly. They sought to understand the Olympians' new strength. Hades, meanwhile, moved with silent purpose. He was not one for grand displays. His power lay in shadow. He wore the helm of darkness. It was a gift from the Cyclops. Its magic made him unseen. He slipped through the battlefield. Titan sentries stood guard. They saw nothing. They felt no breeze. Hades was a ghost. He glided past them. His steps made no sound. He moved deeper into their camps. He observed their formations. He noted their weaknesses. Sometimes he caused small disruptions. A dropped weapon, a tangled rope, nothing major, just enough to sow confusion. He saw Kronos' grim face. The old Titan king looked troubled. His usual confidence wavered. This pleased Hades. He continued his quiet work. He was the unseen spy. He was the phantom saboteur. He heard their grumbles. They spoke of unseen forces. They whispered of bad omens. Their fear was a sweet sound. It fueled Hades' resolve. He gathered vital intelligence. He prepared the ground for others. Meanwhile, Poseidon was a storm. He moved with the ocean's might. His trident hummed with power. He stood on a high cliff. The sea churned below him. He raised his weapon. The waves responded. They grew to towering heights. They crashed against the shore. They surged inland. Titans on the beaches cried out. They scattered in panic. Poseidon thrust his trident forward. The ground trembled. Earthquakes shook the land. Cracks appeared in the earth. Titan formations broke apart. Their lines dissolved into chaos. He targeted specific groups. A phalanx of Titans stood firm. Poseidon aimed his trident. A colossal wave rose. It crashed down upon them. They were swept away. Their roars turned to gurgles. They struggled against the torrent. Some were pulled out to sea. Others were flung against rocks. Poseidon watched, unyielding. He was the ocean's wrath. He felt the earth beneath him shift. It answered his call. Mountains crumbled slightly. Valleys widened. The very landscape reshaped. It became a weapon against the Titans. The Titans tried to fight back. Some hurled boulders. Others shot fiery blasts. But their efforts were futile. They fought against nature itself. They fought against Poseidon's fury. He laughed a deep, rolling laugh. It was like thunder. It echoed over the water. It shook the land. His power was immense. It was boundless. He saw the fear in their eyes. It was a different kind of fear. Not of lightning, but of drowning. Not of fire, but of being crushed. They were helpless against the sea. They were helpless against the earth. He created whirlpools. They swallowed Titan ships. He conjured geysers. They erupted from the ground. He made the land unstable. It became their enemy. The Olympians watched in awe. They saw Poseidon's raw power. They saw Hades' subtle influence. Their confidence grew stronger. Victory seemed more possible. Hades returned from his mission. He shared his findings quietly. He spoke of Titan troop movements. He described their depleted morale. His words were precise. Poseidon, invigorated, paused his assault. He stood, chest heaving. The sea still rippled with his power. He had broken their spirit. He had shattered their lines. The Titans were in disarray. They had suffered greatly. They had faced unseen threats. They had endured nature's wrath. Their arrogance had begun to crumble. The Olympians, once outnumbered, now held an advantage. They had the element of surprise. They had the power of the elements. They had Hades's cunning. They had Poseidon's strength. The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. The Titans knew it. The Olympians felt it. Hope began to bloom. It was a fragile but growing hope. A profound silence descended. It hung heavy, expectant. Then a tremor ran through the very ground. From the depths, from Tartarus itself, they emerged the Hecatonchires. Their arrival was not a gentle unfolding. It was a cataclysmic eruption. Briareus, Cottus, and Gyges rose, their 100 hands already moving. They were titans of strength, not of the old order. Their forms were colossal, shadowed against the swirling chaos. With each breath, the air around them seemed to hum with raw power. Their eyes, ancient and knowing, scanned the battlefield. They saw the struggling Olympians. They saw the defiant Titans. There was no hesitation in their movements. Their purpose was clear: to unleash their fury. The ground groaned beneath them. It buckled and tore. With hands numbering in the hundreds, they reached. They grasped at the very fabric of the earth. Mountains, once majestic and unyielding, became their projectiles. They ripped peaks from their foundations. They tore boulders from the earth's crust. These colossal missiles flew through the air. They soared with incredible speed and force. Their trajectory was true, their aim devastating. The air shrieked as these massive projectiles traversed the sky. They whistled past Zeus, a blur of rock and earth. The Titans, once so confident, now looked up in horror. Their faces, etched with defiance, began to show fear. One mountain, a jagged behemoth, struck Hyperion. The impact shook the cosmos. He reeled, his radiant form flickering. Another, a colossal boulder, smashed into Coeus. He stumbled, a gasp escaping his lips. The Hecatonchires worked in a synchronized ballet of destruction. Each of their 100 hands found a target. The Titans were overwhelmed. They were disoriented. They had never faced such an onslaught. Rocks rained down like a terrible hail. Mountains fell like collapsing giants. The earth itself seemed to be turning against them. Dust plumed into the sky, obscuring the sun. The battlefield became a maelstrom of debris. Amidst this chaos, a new light ignited. It was not the sun. It was something far more potent. Zeus, high above, gathered his strength. His eyes blazed with a fierce, unwavering determination. His hand, once clenched, now opened. From his palm, a single bolt of lightning sprang forth. It was not a mere flash. It was a searing spear of pure energy. It arced through the darkened sky. This was the first of many. He unleashed another, then another. The sky became a canvas of blinding light. Each bolt was a thunderous roar. Each strike was a testament to his power. The lightning was continuous. It was relentless. It illuminated the Hecatoncheires, their forms silhouetted against the brilliant flashes. It cast long, dancing shadows across the devastated landscape. The cosmos itself seemed to crackle with energy. One bolt struck Cronus's shield. The impact reverberated through his arm. He gritted his teeth, his expression strained. Another bolt narrowly missed Atlas. He recoiled, his face pale. The air grew heavy with ozone. The scent of burning rock filled the nostrils. The Titans, already reeling from the Hecatoncheires' assault, were now bombarded from above. They were caught between two overwhelming forces. The ground shuddered with each impact. The sky thundered with each crackle. This was not a battle. It was a cosmic storm. The sheer destructive power was unimaginable. It was a force of nature unleashed. The Titans, once proud formations, began to fracture. Their lines wavered. Their resolve faltered. They had faced many challenges. They had never faced anything like this. Their shouts of defiance turned to cries of alarm. Their powerful blows became hesitant parries. The weight of the mountains, the sting of the lightning, it was too much. They were beginning to break. One by one, they began to retreat. Their movements were not orderly. They were desperate, scrambling. They sought shelter from the relentless barrage. They sought respite from the overwhelming power. The tide had turned. The Olympians, once pressed, now pressed forward. The Hecatoncheires continued their onslaught. Zeus continued his storm. The Titans, mighty as they were driven back. Their retreat was slow at first. It then gained momentum. They were no longer the aggressors. They were the hunted. The cosmos echoed with their cries of defeat. The war had entered a new phase. The air grew heavy. A quiet despair settled. The Titans, once mighty, now wavered. Their strength, like an ebbing tide, receded. Each blow from an Olympian chipped away at their resolve. Their great roars became weary sighs. Their movements, once swift, grew sluggish. The battlefield, once vibrant with their power, felt cold. Hope, a fragile thing, began to fray. Yet one Titan still burned with defiance. Atlas, strong and unyielding, stood firm. His eyes, though tired, held a fierce light. He would not surrender, not yet. He rallied his weary brethren. His voice, a booming echo, pierced the din. "We fight on," he cried, "for our freedom, for our kin." A final, desperate surge began. Atlas, at its head, charged forward. His massive club swung, a blur of power. He aimed for the heart of the Olympian line. Zeus watched him, a glint in his eye. The young god acknowledged Atlas's bravery, but the tide had turned irrevocably. Victory was now within their grasp. The Olympians met the charge head-on. Their combined might was simply too great. Apollo's arrows sang through the air. Athena's spear flashed, a streak of light. Atlas fought with the fury of a trapped beast. He struck down many, his strength immense. But for every Olympian felled, another rose. Their numbers seemed endless, their spirit unbroken. His fellow Titans faltered around him. Their last reserves of power drained away. One by one, they stumbled, then fell. The battlefield became a graveyard of their hopes. Atlas stood alone, surrounded. His breath came in ragged gasps. Sweat, like rain, streamed down his face. Yet, he still held his ground. He met Zeus's gaze across the chaos. A silent challenge passed between them. Atlas would not yield, not willingly. He prepared for the final, inevitable clash. But the Olympians were too many. Hercules, mighty and formidable, moved in. He grappled with Atlas, his strength matching the Titans. The ground trembled beneath their struggle. Atlas roared in frustration. He fought with every fiber of his being. But the weight of the war, the years of strife, had taken their toll. His limbs ached, his vision blurred. Other Olympians joined the fray. Poseidon's trident flashed, a blue blur. Hades, shadows coiled, binding his legs. Atlas, despite his power, was overwhelmed. He struggled, a magnificent, desperate sight. But the net of their combined might tightened. Slowly, inexorably, he was brought down. His great body finally succumbed. A hush fell over the battlefield. The last bastion of Titan resistance had fallen. The war, so long and brutal, was over. Victory belonged to the Olympians. Chains, forged by Hephaestus, materialized. They shimmered with divine power. They coiled around the defeated Titans. Their strength, now broken, offered no resistance. Kronos, still bound, watched in silence. His eyes, once full of fire, were now dull. Rhea wept softly, her tears falling like rain. The age of the Titans had ended. Zeus, triumphant, surveyed the scene. His voice, a thunderclap, filled the air. "Let justice be served," he proclaimed. "Let punishment fit the crime." He turned to Atlas, now subdued. "You, Atlas," Zeus declared. "Your strength, though misused, is great. It shall serve a purpose, an eternal one." Atlas looked up, his eyes defiant. He awaited his fate, head held high. He knew his punishment would be harsh. He had expected no less. "You shall bear the burden of the world," Zeus decreed. "The very sky, with all its weight. It shall rest upon your mighty shoulders. For all eternity, you shall hold it." A gasp rippled through the assembled gods. It was a punishment, both fitting and cruel. Atlas, the embodiment of strength, would carry the heavens themselves. The chains tightened around him. A strange, ethereal light glowed. The vast, starry sky seemed to descend. Its immense weight settled upon him. Atlas grunted, his muscles straining. The burden was immense, immediate. He felt the crushing pressure, the endless weight. His knees buckled slightly, but he did not fall. He stood, his back bowed. His shoulders bore the celestial dome. His punishment had begun, a silent, solitary vigil. The other titans were led away. They were bound for Tartarus, the deepest abyss, a place of eternal darkness and torment. Their rebellion had cost them dearly. The Olympians rejoiced, their voices loud. The age of their rule had dawned. But beneath the celebration, a somber note. The cost of victory had been immense. The sky, held by Atlas, stretched above. A constant reminder of the war. A silent monument to his defiance. His burden, an eternal testament. The air crackled. It hummed with raw power. Zeus stood ready, his siblings stood beside him. Cronus, defiant, faced them all. His eyes burned, his ancient rage pulsed. He lunged first, a desperate, final strike. His scythe, once so terrible, swept through the void. But Zeus was swifter. He was stronger now. He met Cronus's fury with his own. Lightning flashed. It tore through the sky. Thunder boomed. It shook the very cosmos. The earth trembled. Mountains groaned aloud. This was the final battle, the ultimate clash. Cronus roared. His voice echoed with pain. He summoned dark energies, forgotten powers. The ground split open. Chasms yawned wide. He would not surrender, not without a fight. Rhea watched, her heart ached with sorrow. Her son fought her husband, brother against father. But justice demanded it, freedom depended on it. The Titan's reign had to end. Poseidon surged forward, his trident gleamed. He struck at Cronus, a mighty, ocean-fueled blow. The Sea King's power was vast. It was untamed. He fought for his freedom. He fought for his kin. Hades rose from the shadows, his helm dark. He conjured dark mists. They swirled around Cronus. The lord of the underworld pulled at his spirit. He sought to bind him, to contain his might. Demeter called upon the earth, its fertile strength. She anchored her siblings. She steadied their stance. Her quiet power sustained them. It gave them resolve. She was the bedrock, the foundation of their hope. Hera stood firm, her gaze unwavering. She lent her strength, her regal authority. Her presence was a shield, a beacon of courage. She was the queen, the leader of their cause. Hestia, ever watchful, kept the sacred flame. Her quiet energy warmed them. It gave them peace. She was the heart of their home, the spirit of their unity. Her presence was a comfort, a silent blessing. Cronus faltered. His movements grew slow. The combined might of his children overwhelmed him. His ancient strength waned, his fury dimmed. The tide had turned, his reign was ending. Zeus raised his arm, a final, decisive act. A brilliant bolt of lightning formed in his hand. It pulsed with pure energy, with divine will. This was the end, the absolute conclusion. He hurled the bolt. it streaked through the air. It struck Cronus directly, a blinding flash. The Titan King screamed, a sound of pure agony. His body convulsed, his power shattered. He fell to his knees, his form diminished. The once mighty ruler was brought low. His scythe clattered, it lay broken beside him. The weight of defeat pressed upon him. Zeus approached him, his face grim. There was no joy in victory, only grim resolve. He looked upon his father, a broken, defeated foe. The cycle of power was broken. The Hecatonchires appeared, their massive forms. 100 hands, 50 heads, immense strength. They were the jailers, the unyielding guardians. Their duty was clear, their purpose defined. They seized Cronus, their grip like iron. He struggled weakly, his resistance futile. His once terrible power was gone. He was merely a prisoner, a captive king. They bound him with chains, unbreakable, strong. These were no ordinary fetters, they were divine. They coiled around him, they held him fast. He could not escape, he could not break free. Down they led him, into the abyssal depths. Tartarus awaited, its dark, eternal prison. The deepest chasm, the farthest reach of the world. A place of no return, a realm of despair. The earth parted for them, the chasm yawned. A cold wind rose, it whispered of silence. Down, down they descended, into the gloom. Far below the world, beyond all light, Cronus was pulled unwillingly into the void. His screams faded, they became mere whispers. The darkness swallowed him, it consumed his form. He was gone, banished from the light. The Hecatonchires stood guard at the abyss's edge. Their mighty forms loomed, eternal sentinels. They would watch over him forever and a day. Cronus was imprisoned, his reign was over. The world breathed a sigh of relief. The long war was ended, the tyranny broken. A new age dawned, a new era began. The Olympians had triumphed, justice had prevailed. The sky cleared, the stars shone bright. A new peace settled, a quiet calm. The universe exhaled a long, slow breath. The sound of freedom, the whisper of hope. The children of Cronus stood victorious. They had faced their past, they had forged their future. The world was safe, their destiny secured. They looked to the heavens, a new dawn. The last echoes of war faded. A profound quiet settled across the land. The air, once thick with thunder, now smelled of rain and fresh earth. Weary, but victorious, the Olympians ascended Mount Olympus. They found their home transformed. The scars of battle were gone, restored by some unseen, gentle hand. Golden light bathed the peak. Soft breezes whispered through newly bloomed flowers. This was their sanctuary now, a place of peace. They had fought, they had won. Now they could finally rest. Comfort filled their hearts, a warmth after endless strife. Zeus stood at the summit. His gaze swept over the vast world below. It was a world reborn, ready for their gentle rule. He felt a deep sense of responsibility. The other gods gathered around him. Hera, serene and regal, stood close. Poseidon, his trident resting, looked out at the distant, shimmering sea. Hades, cloaked in shadow, remained apart. They gazed at the boundless sky. They looked upon the sleeping earth. A new era had dawned. Their dominion would begin. But how would they share this vast realm? The cosmos stretched infinitely before them. Its wonders awaited their touch. A quiet hum filled the air. It was a murmur of agreement, a shared understanding. The time for division had come. They would bring order to chaos. Zeus, with a thoughtful nod, stepped forward. He held out a shimmering helmet. It was Hades's helm of invisibility, a symbol of their shared destiny. Then a trident appeared. It was Poseidon S, encrusted with barnacles. It hummed with the power of the deep. Two powerful symbols, two powerful brothers. Finally, thunder rumbled softly. A lightning bolt, crackling with energy, materialized in Zeus's hand. It was his mighty weapon, his emblem of power. These were the tokens of their power. Each represented a vast domain. The sky, the sea, the shadowy underworld. But who would govern which realm? The question hung in the air. A fair method was needed, one that all could accept. Zeus, ever the diplomat, suggested a drawing of lots. A simple, ancient custom. It would decide their fates. He took 3 smooth, polished stones. Each was distinct in color and shape. He placed them in a golden urn. The urn shimmered softly. A gentle light emanated from within. The weight of their decision filled the air. First, Hades approached. His eyes, like embers, glowed in the dimming light. He reached into the urn. His hand emerged, clutching a dark obsidian stone. It gleamed with an inner fire. A quiet sigh escaped him. He knew his destiny. The underworld awaited him. Its secrets, its depths, its silent majesty. Next, Poseidon stepped forward. His expression was calm, unwavering. The sea called to him. He plunged his hand into the urn. His fingers closed around a turquoise stone. It pulsed with the rhythm of the waves. A small smile touched his lips. The boundless oceans were his. Their currents, their mysteries, their powerful depths. Finally, it was Zeus's turn. He felt a tremor of anticipation. The sky beckoned him. He reached in, his fingers closed around the last stone. It glowed with a brilliant, celestial light. The color of a clear morning sky. A sense of awe filled him. The heavens were his domain. The thunder, the clouds, the vast, open expanse. So it was decided. Hades, lord of the underworld. Poseidon, ruler of the seas. Zeus, king of the sky. Their realms were distinct, yet they were connected, part of a greater whole. The cosmos was balanced. Zeus, now king of the gods, looked at his brothers. A quiet understanding passed between them. They were united. Mount Olympus became their permanent home. Its golden halls echoed with their laughter. Its gardens bloomed eternally. peace settled over the world. The echoes of war were truly gone. A new order had begun. The stars twinkled brightly. The moon cast a gentle glow. The sea murmured a lullaby. The earth breathed a contented sigh. All was well. All was in its rightful place. The gods began their work. They shaped the world. They guided its creatures. They brought forth beauty. Zeus from his throne watched over all. His wisdom, his strength, his calm demeanor. He was a true king. Poseidon from his underwater palace calmed the storms. He nurtured the life in the deep. He was a loving guardian. Hades, in his silent realm, ensured balance. He welcomed the departed. He maintained order in the shadows. The initial sense of peace endured. The cosmos, once a battleground, was now a sanctuary, a realm of harmony. The winds carried whispers of their deeds. The rivers sang songs of their power. The mountains stood as silent sentinels. All was quiet. All was calm. The great war was over. A new age had dawned. Sleep now, little one. Dream of golden halls. Dream of shimmering seas. Dream of quiet depths. The world is at peace. The gods watch over you. Their power protects you. Their love surrounds you. Rest your mind. Close your eyes. Drift into slumber. The night is gentle. The stars are your blanket. The moon is your nightlight. The dreams are your journey. Sleep well, dear friend, until the morning light, until the next story. The last echoes faded. A profound silence settled. The long war finally ended. Peace, a fragile bloom, began to unfurl. Zeus stood tall. His eyes surveyed the land. He felt the weight of his new power. A deep calm filled him. His siblings gathered near. They looked at him with trust. Their faces showed relief. The long struggle was over. Hera offered a gentle smile. Poseidon nodded slowly. Hades remained stoic. His presence was strong. Demeter's expression softened. Hestia radiated warmth. She brought comfort to them all. Her quiet strength was a balm. The family was whole again. Mount Olympus awaited them. Its peak touched the sky. Clouds swirled around its summit. It was their rightful home. They ascended, step by careful step. The air grew crisp and clear. A sense of destiny filled each breath. This was their moment. Upon the highest peak, they paused. The world stretched out below. It was a vast, quiet expanse. A new era dawned. Zeus took his throne. It was carved from starlight. Power hummed within its frame. He was now king. Hera sat beside him. Her regal bearing was evident. She would be queen. Their reign had begun. Poseidon claimed the seas. His trident shimmered blue. The oceans would obey him. He controlled their vastness. Hades descended to the underworld. His realm awaited him there. He would guard the spirits. His rule was just. Demeter embraced the earth. Green things sprang forth. Harvests would be bountiful. Life would flourish under her care. Hestia tended the hearth. Her flame burned brightly. It was the heart of Olympus. It offered constant warmth. The younger gods found their places. Apollo, Artemis, Athena, Ares, Hephaestus, Aphrodite, Hermes, Dionysus, too. Each took on a sacred duty. They would guide humankind. They would uphold cosmic order. Their purpose was clear. A new age had begun. It was an age of balance. It was an age of peace. The world could finally rest. They had learned much. Unity was their strength. Courage fueled their fight. Justice guided their actions. These lessons were hard-won. They carried them forward. Their new rule reflected them. The world would benefit. The memory of tyranny faded. Kronos was no more. His dark reign was ended. Light now prevailed. The Olympians would protect. They would nurture life. They would ensure harmony. Their promise was true. No longer would chaos reign. No longer would fear linger. The Titans were vanquished. Order was restored. The stars gleamed brighter. The moon shone softly. The sun rose with new promise. Each day brought peace. Sleepers could rest soundly. Their dreams would be calm. The gods watched over them. Their world was safe. The wind whispered through the trees. It carried a lullaby. It spoke of quiet nights. It told of peaceful days. The rivers flowed gently. They murmured ancient songs. They sang of new beginnings. They sang of lasting calm. The earth breathed slowly. It settled into stillness. It felt the gentle touch. It welcomed the new reign. The Olympians watched over all. Their presence was a comfort. Their power was a shield. Their wisdom was a guide. The world was a cradle. It held all living things. It was safe and secure. It was blessed by the gods. Drift now into slumber. Let your thoughts be light. The world is at peace. All is well. Rest deeply, little one. The gods are watchful. Their reign is kind. Their promise endures. Sweet dreams, sleepy child. The new order is here. It brings tranquility. It brings lasting peace. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more peaceful tales from mythology.